Hello everybody and welcome to our webinar entitled Living Your Authentic Voice in Your Relationships. It is a practical approach to relationship problems. Did you know that more than half of marriages are divorced? And this is true for all Western countries, especially as we see here. In Belgium, 71% marriages divorced. In Portugal, 68%. In Spain, 61%. In US, 53%, so you are quite good in the run. And in Switzerland, 51%. In Germany, where I come from, about 47%. So this is a divorce rate from 2010 and 2011. And if there is so little possibility, 1-to-1, that you will end up at the end of your life with the same partner you have first married, there might be some problems in the relationships. It's not only your own problem or a problem in a society. There seems to be a global problem with relationships. So we want to have a little look on that. What is about you? Did you already separate from an intimate partner? And if so, how often? And how did you live through those breakups? Give me an evaluation between 1 to 10 from a mild breakup and a dramatic breakup. Dramatic breakup would be when you enter into depression and drinking and all these things. Might break up and you are 2 weeks a little bit worried and then you go on with your normal life. Just remember, how was it for you? And if you had more than one breakup, and here I don't speak only about marriages, I speak about normal relationships which today don't need to be marriages, you know. When we consider the separation rates are even more high than we saw before on the slide of marriages. So if you had several breakups in your life, do you remember or do you recognize similar things, similarities in your relationship, and also similarities maybe in breakups, but at least how you lived in the aftermath of the breakup? Can you remember? Is there something alike? And did you ever swear the next time it will different? As I did several times, I have to say. And then it happened again. And now the key question. Do you want to finally be happy and fulfilled in your partnership and create a relationship beyond your wildest dreams? And if so, what do you need to do to create such a wonderful relationship? So the first thing is become aware of your patterns. Before I asked you, did you recognize similarities? And these might be a strong hint that there is a pattern in your behavior, in your thoughts, in your feelings. And it is important that you recognize these conditioned thoughts and feelings and ways of acting. Here in this slide, you see, that's what I normally did. When there was a difficulty in relationship, I just didn't talk. In the window, in the picture, you know, we go everybody in his direction and her direction, and we don't really talk. We get alienated, and we, at the end, there's no reason to be together anymore, and we just separate. There are other styles of separation, as you see on the other picture. They are fighting, and the fight gets ever worse and worse, and not only blaming, really attacking each other. And dishonoring the person up to a point that a real relationship cannot be rebuilt anymore. So what is your style? Or something in between? When you have recognized your patterns and what you are doing normally so far in your relationships, now it comes to the point where we have to heal the wounds which have caused us to behave in such a way. You wouldn't say, oh, I'm not aware of any wounds, and probably many people are not. And it's exactly what you need to do, what we all need to do, what I needed to do to finally be able to really create a wonderful relationship. I had to dig out what it was, why I behaved in a certain way, why I couldn't do it in a different way, and even if I knew better, I did it again. We have to grow up there where we have left our growing, when we were little and we were hurt and we were dimmed down, for instance, we have to foster this little child in us, which is still behaving as if she was 6, 7, 8. For me, for instance, it was that I was speechless when conflicts arose in the family. Nobody would talk with me, but just say, you have to do blah, 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 blah. And I, okay. So I learned when there are conflicts, there is no way to talk about it. And you just have to accept it and try to hold position in some way and try to survive. This was all. And I transported this in my relationships, and I stayed in my relationships much too long, much longer than I should have. And I choose partners who would fit exactly into this pattern, that when conflicts arise, he just would, not saying anything anymore, and I wouldn't say anything anymore, and inside it would cook and get worse and worse and worse, and then it just go, or with a pang, or just go away, nothing more to say to each other. And for that, we need to learn new skills and capacities, new ways of behavior and thoughts, new ways of handling our feelings. And that's exactly the way I did, and exactly the way I would like to transfer to you. All right. But how, you will say? So the first thing is to accept resistance. There is a quote from Keith With who says, our brains are wired to resist change. And this is a neurobiological truth which science has found out, that there's always both energies in us. One energy who wants to evolve, push us ahead, and the other energy which wants to keep us down in the same position as we always were. So first of all, accept that it is. We cannot just pretend that we will always evolve without any difficulties. There will be the inner counterpart all the time. But this is not a bad news, because if you are aware of that, when something coming up, habitual ways of, distracting or being tired, as in this picture here, oh, this is my inner counterpart. It doesn't want me to do what I am up to do. Here it is. Let's see how he behaves, and so on. You observe him and say, oh, but I can do it anyway. This is our choosing faculty. We need, for that, train our muscles of self-awareness, of really becoming clear what we are doing, what we are thinking, what is going inside of us. The inner voices, often it's not only one who is whispering, you should do this, oh no, better do this, and if I do this, then he will say blah, 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 and if I do, oh, he should better do that, and so on. They are going on in continuum. And I need to say that I learned about them, I got aware about them only about 20 years ago. I didn't know that these things were going on and conditioning me, but now I really hear them, and I can say, okay, I'm hearing you, but I will do what I want to do, and you don't hinder me. But there is a special practice to really do it in a very kind way, without dimming down these inner voices and make them silent and punish them. No, that's not the way, because they will get even stronger and stronger when we don't accept them, when we don't care for them. But caring for them doesn't mean that we do what they tell us. This is a big difference. And when we become very aware of what we are doing, what is going on inside of ourselves, we learn also to be aware of what is going on in the other person, in your partner. We begin to understand his inner mechanisms. And so we can be much more tolerant than we ever were before. And it's important that you really see the other person you want to have a relationship with. If you see it only as a figure of the projection of your ideas, how a relationship should be, that doesn't really help very much. You will come for sure to the moment when you find out he's different. He's different than you thought, but probably he has always been the same all the time, but you just didn't see it. So one of the good things is becoming really aware, really seeing the other person and not drifting away in stories, interpretations, and so on. And then the last point, which is very important, is understand generally relationship dynamics. And there are a lot of books outside, psychological self-help books, who explain quite well how dynamics go in relationships. So there is possibility to learn that. But all that, knowing, reading, even 2 meters of books is not enough, because everything we are learning by books is stored in the left hemisphere, in the intellectual brain, we can say. So we understand the concepts, we understand the rules and everything, but still we are not able to change. This happened to me because in my last relationship, I was so set up. I thought, really, now I know everything, how relationships have to go and what I could do to really lead them in a certain direction. And then I was inside of this relationship and I could see everything. All the dynamics. I could see my behavior. I could see his behavior. I could understand what we were doing, but I could not change anything about it, because knowing about it is the first step, but it doesn't really help. It helps, but it's not enough. It's really not enough, because we are trying to think about it, to get it right by our thinking. But our right hemisphere, look at the picture, this where all is green, and the intuitive, emotional hemisphere of our brain, we have left it out. And with only half brain, we cannot make a change, because the other half brain is not involved, and it would in some way interfere, and it does. So only if both hemispheres collaborate, we can create real change. And that means that our theoretical understanding, once we have it, needs to be practiced in real life. And in your relationships you have a lot of practice ground, but as long as you are alone, it is difficult to really, alone in your couple, difficult to really get out of it, because I understood very well what was going on with my previous partner. But there was no way of getting out of this dynamics, because I cannot do psychotherapy to myself, to my partner, and to the whole relationship, where I am myself so completely immersed and involved. It's just not possible. It is a continuous circle, and even if you know that's all going down the hill, you have no means to do that. So the best thing is to get some guidance in these problems. I wouldn't say problems, in these new skills and possibilities to be in this world. And it's not psychotherapy that you go alone to a psychotherapist and your partner goes. It's really relationship work. And you need to practice with your partner, with your future partner when he appears, or even with random people who you meet. You have to practice different ways of relating. And the good news is you can do that. There are several possibilities. Look here, for instance. Here is a retreat. This retreat was women only, and we really dived deep into the relationship issues, the relationship to myself, to the relationship towards the world, what we believe is possible for us in the world, and the relationship to other people. Here you see us in the more theoretical part of the retreat. And the next photo is the experiential part. Out on the top of a mountain, doing a sort of meditation, integrating what we have worked in the morning. And then coming back home, here is some men around, and our retreats will also be open for men. Don't forget the belly. Being in Italy, in Umbria, there is marvelous food. Yeah, and we invite you to practice these new relationship skills in one of our retreats at Paradiso Integrale. And you can find out about us in thepowerofrelationship.com. The next retreat, the spring retreat 2014, will be from 13th of April to May 4th, here in our beautiful land villa. We will be happy to guide you into new ways of relating and into your future relationship beyond your wildest dreams.